on them, stand up. If you have a cell phone, stand up. And take it out. And do you have the ringer off?
Yes.
Very good crowd participation. Turn the ringer on. Do you know how? My children don't have ringers. Their phone never rings. Mine rings, I don't hear it. Turn your ringer on, then we can all sit down. I lost my phone this weekend, and I was relieved. Extremely relieved. So I have a loaner, so I don't know how to do anything or talk to anybody. So very cathartic. My problem is I'm a bureau chief of the Bronx VA's office, and so when terrible crashes happen, be it at 12 noon or at 12 midnight, they will call me. And so it is kind of important for me to have a phone that works. So I stayed home over the weekend finally. I got a chance, and when my phone didn't work, I just figured they'd call me on the house phone. But I had the weekend. What I'm going to do is, I need the little thing, Bob. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the legal aspects of this. Oh, you put me up ready? Thank you. Let's see if I can do it. This is from AT&T.
The day before graduation, my daughter drove to go meet a boy, and she never made it.
He was texting her to tell her directions of where she needed to go, and I guess she just looked away for too long.
Today, she would have been 19 years old exactly.
I was on my way home. I had my girlfriend in the car, and I'm just reading a text message, responding. And the next second, I look up and I see a bicyclist crashing the windshield.
This is my sister. She was looking at my message that I had just sent her. When she looked up, her truck flipped. She was actually ejected through the driver's side door, and she landed in the ditch. People will tell you over and over again, it's not your fault. But knowing that you were the person that she was talking to when she was killed, if I could talk to her one last time, I would just say I'm sorry.
It's a simple text message. And where are you at? 3 simple words.
I said one stupid, meaningless text and killed him.
Poor little nurse. That's what killed her.
The bottom line. Message from AT&T. Permission is granted to use in news, public affairs. You don't know how nice that is of them. I'm a bureau chief in the Bronx VA's office, but I'm also the New York State Traffic Safety Resource Prosecutor. Thanks to Chuck and the Governor's Traffic Highway Committee, I'm responsible for teaching police officers, prosecutors, and sometimes judges around the state on issues affecting vehicular crimes. And so I now, once I came upon that and I saw that little thing that said I could use it, I show that in almost every training I do. Because that's what we're talking about here, is we're talking about awareness, right? We're talking about people understanding it. Mayor de Blasio is talking about Vision Zero. All of a sudden, I've been doing this a long time, but now all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of people in New York City who are all saying, well, how many people are dying? And how are they dying? And what can we do about that? Why do we have to put up with that? Now, in all fairness, when I started in the DA's office, which was not as long ago as you might think, there were 2,000 homicides, like violent felony homicides, like boom, boom, stabbing, right? There were 2,000 a year. Now there's somewhere around 380, 400. So we're living in a time, and that's across the country. You have that lessening of crime. So we're living in a time where law enforcement, prosecutors' offices, hopefully judges, will look at this closer. We'll say, we don't have to have this. We don't have to have this happen. We can do something to change the behavior, and that's what we're seeing. Governor Cuomo has been talked about quite extensively. He's a car guy. He's like, what I've read about him is he's got like cool cars. I like cars, and it just it pisses you off. Like I'm coming up to the bridge, and there's 2 lanes that have to merge into one. And I'm a big believer in the zipper merge. I think the zipper merge is really the defining moment of social interaction in our world. That if everybody just works together and one car goes, one car goes, one car goes, we all get there and nobody's getting cut off. But of course you don't see that all the time, right? And as like a driver, I'm paying attention all the time, and I'm like, well, that's not right. And then I got this guy in front of me, oh, I don't know who it is, a car in front of me, and they're just like, this is old traffic. This is New York City, right? So it's always traffic. And they're slowing down, and then a whole bunch of cars get to go, which is pissing me off. And then they're going up, and then they're slowing down, and then they're not. And I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking a little closer. And right there, texting. They're not just on the phone. You can see you've seen it. And I don't know, it was just the morning. I don't drink coffee, right? But I don't know what it was. But I just thought like, on the horn, like rapid, like, and they look up in the mirror. I'm like, put it down, put the phone down. Now I'm not advocating that, okay? As I was doing it, I was thinking, my wife is really gonna laugh when I get shot, right? Yelling at a person on the cell phone. So I'm not advocating it, but it was like a gut response. Maybe if we did all do it. What he did, one thought that I had, the trooper, Joe Izzo, they've been coming into work, and they're like, today you're gonna have the governor in your police car and driving around. Talk about a horrible moment. And then they're gonna be like, oh, we're gonna put the governor in the front seat next to you, and a camera, and a news person in the back seat. You can be like, what did I do to somebody, right? He handled it well, and I just love the governor. To go and do that. To go and see it for himself. That's impressive. That's impressive. You don't know. I've been in this area of law. I did regular homicides. I did drug gangs. I did wiretap. I did everything. And then finally life came around and suddenly I was doing this because everybody's asking me the questions. I've been doing it a long time. And it's refreshing to see that level of commitment and interest by people who can change things, which includes us. So he has his State of the State, where he talked about a number of things they've been talking about here already. A lot of great ideas, a lot of good things happening. We've all seen the statistics. We all know how dangerous this is. This is, preaching to the choir here. Okay? There's no question. Does anybody's phone ring? Nobody's phone's ring yet? You turn them off? They're all on and nobody's phone is ringing? How many people were texting while the video was on? But I saw a couple of people texting while the video was on. Raise your hand if your phone rings. If you have like one of those phone rings of a really cool ringtone, share it with us. Does it? You don't have a ringtone?
It vibrates.
No, Tom, you're too good. Too good. I've always wanted to be Tom. Anyway, though. So what do we have? We all know about these numbers, right? But we saw that video. But what are we going to talk about now? Because I don't want to take too long. Let's talk about what we really are talking about. Because you've suffered a terrible tragedy, Ben, and you talked a lot, Tony, about, well, getting it to the level of a crime. Getting it to the prosecutor's office so that they're charging a crime. Okay? Someone said to me earlier, 5 points. What's 5 points? Well, when someone loses their life, what is 5 points? The question is it criminally negligent homicide? Now, what do we have in New York State? And I know we're on YouTube, and so a lot of different people could be watching or possibly talking on their phone or watching old daily reruns on TiVo or cooking. I don't know what they're doing on YouTube or where they're doing it. But in New York State, you have a couple distinct felony crimes that are chargeable in vehicular crashes where somebody was killed. And the highest, of course, is depraved indifference homicide. And we'll talk about that later. That's very rare, as it probably should be. And then the next would be a reckless manslaughter, recklessly causing the death of another person. And then the bottom one is criminally negligent homicide. Well, I gotta tell you, we do a lot of good things. We do a lot of things right. We talked a little bit about judgment before, right? Okay, let me tell you a little bit about criminally negligent homicide in New York. A lot of states have statutes similar to ours. But a long time ago, we had a crash where the Court of Appeals, which is our highest state court, they make the rules. They said that it's a gross deviation from the standard of care a normal person would employ that has some sort of fabric or meaning of or texture of moral blameworthiness. That's a troubling interpretation of the statute. You have intentional crimes where people, they got a gun, boom, right? That's an intentional crime. Well, vehicular crimes are typically unintentional. The drunk driver who kills in a depraved indifference case drives the wrong way on the highway for 3.5 miles at a .28 at 70 miles an hour is creating a situation where someone is going to lose their life. But even still, you're not going to say they intended it. They didn't go out that night to kill somebody, right? We hear that all the time. But they create a series of situations, a series of factors that are going to result in that. And so when you look at criminally negligent homicide, it's not intentional. So why do you have this moral blameworthiness? What it's about is you set up a circumstance that's just so dangerous. As a society, we understand that if you make a small mistake in a vehicle, you make a small mistake in your kitchen, you drop the knife, that's life. You make a small mistake watching TV, watching American Idol, and drop your soda, that's life. In a car, you make a small mistake, you miss a stop sign and crash into something or hit a pedestrian, that may have catastrophic consequences, but it doesn't automatically connect to criminality. We've chosen to drive the cars. We've chosen to get where we want to go. And as universally across the country, Colorado is like the one state, they have this law that if you're involved in a fatal crash, there's a crime for it. That's very, very unusual. Most states look at it like, you gotta be doing something wronger than just wrong. And so that's where criminally negligent homicide. Negligent homicide, it doesn't exist. A negligent loss of life is a lawsuit. Criminally negligent homicide is when you stepped up what you're doing. You stepped up the risk. Classic is DWI. Okay? Classic is DWI because we all know how dangerous the effects of drinking, how it takes away your attention, how it makes you unable to process information rapidly. And so then when you're drinking, which alone is not enough, then when you're drinking and you go through the stop sign, which is what drunk drivers do, then you have sometimes criminally negligent homicide. You might even actually have a reckless manslaughter often charge. When you have the drunk driver who yaws off the road and crashes into the tree on the side of the road and kills a friend. That's a man too. That's a manslaughter in second degree. Where does driving and texting fit in? And that question has not been answered. Let me tell you two things that would worry you. There was a case in the Court of Appeals within the past couple of years where a limo driver, professional driver, which I think matters, is down in Brooklyn and he gets on the Belt Parkway, which is one heck of a road. How many of you been on the Belt Parkway? Well, it's good to see you all still here, okay? And so, I mean, think about the Belt Parkway where they put the gas stations in the middle. Like, where was that design theory, right? I would love to see the room to figure that one out. Let's put the left-hand lane, the entrance to the gas station. That's very safe. So what happens on that? The limo driver goes down the wrong way. He goes down the exit ramp onto the Belt Parkway. And as he gets right to the parkway, this is at night, he realizes it. I'm heading the wrong way. So he stops. And there's a big long limo, right? What are his options? None? He's got to come up with something. He's not on the 3 lanes yet. He's at the end of the ramp. What's the option? You just made a motion. What? Back out. Is anybody going to be coming down the ramp behind him? Well, it is Brooklyn. But you're hoping not, right? They shouldn't be. So, back that limo out. Another option. Right on the corner of the Belt Parkway, there's a little grassy area. It's not big. I won't lie to you. It's not big. But it's longer than the length of a limo. So he could take the limo and like go, like do a bazillion K-turns, right? And get the thing turned around and then drive off the ramp. His decision was to turn the limo across 3 lanes of highway at night, around a corner, with a bridge. So when the motorcyclist comes around the corner, what options is he left with? 0. I drive cars. I drive on a highway, and I think to myself things like that. Like, how mad would I be if that's what takes my life? Something will. I'm okay with that, but that would really piss me off. And so I look at that case, and the prosecutor in that case looked at it and said, that's criminal negligence. You've now done something that's, for lack of a better word, so darn stupid that you endangered everybody around. And I'm going to charge it. And the jury said, that's criminal negligence. And the Court of Appeals said, that's just a bad judgment. That's just a bad judgment. There was a case up in upstate New York, a young guy driving, 17 years old, junior license. What are the rules on a junior license? What? Not supposed to be after 9:30 at night. He was earlier than that. That's probably about the only one he didn't break. Thank you, Shannon, for mentioning the only rule that I can think of that he didn't break. What's another rule on junior licenses? I'm not asking Shannon because she's on the wrong track. You can't have any kids in the car, right? You're allowed to drive with one other person if they're not your family member, right? Isn't it something like that? And he's got 3 kids in the car. What's another rule? Junior licenses. Supposed to have a licensed driver in the car. Guess what the 3 17-year-olds are? Not licensed drivers. What's another rule? You didn't know this rule, but I didn't know this rule either, so I'm not better. The junior licenses are supposed to ascertain that every single person in their car is seatbelted. Every single person. Guess who's seatbelted? Nobody. So when he comes into a corner on an upstate road at 78 miles an hour, which is the minimum speed from the reconstruction, which of course Tony and I know, that probably means he was faster into the corner. And the corner is, I think, marked a 35 or a 40. And he dives down to the inside of the curve. He's just going too fast. And he yells off the road and he takes the life of all 3 of his friends. And the prosecutor said, that's criminally negligent homicide. That's criminally negligent homicide. And the Court of Appeals said, no, that's just youthful inexperience. So that's the fabric, that's the landscape of the legal decision that a prosecutor has to make. So I'll tell you about like a hypothetical case. Well, first let me tell you this. And you don't have to read this. I don't do these little wording slides so they have to read them. They're just the heading. Driving while intoxicated. Anatomy of a text messaging death case. Talks about a California case. Talks about exactly what Tony was talking about. There's a whole ton of evidence that the guy's doing all sorts of stupid stuff. People are following along and watching as he's doing, slowing, speeding up, all of a sudden drifting to the right, drifting to the left. And they get all of the evidence out of his phone and out of his phone records. The guy's texting, he's charged. That was okay. You have one in New Hampshire. Look at that. I just think it's cool that it's David Scott McCormack is the New Hampshire State Police. No, I don't know. I think it's cool. During the conversation, the defendant admitted that at the time of the accident, he was checking a text message. Stated that he did not see the Subaru. I just looked down, and the next thing you know, he admitted to it. When you were listening to Tony, did a thought strike you that maybe didn't strike you before? This isn't so freaking easy. Everybody stands around like, oh, they were texting. Oh yeah, you know that crash? They were texting. This video we saw, what did each person say in it? I was texting. In the absence of that, as a law enforcement officer and as a prosecutor, I need evidence. Right? I have these couple cases around the country where this has been texting alone. What will it be in New York State? That answer hasn't been answered. I don't know of any particular singularized New York State texting while driving alone case that resulted in a criminal negligent homicide conviction. Where have I seen texting in New York State? As part and parcel. Remember Tony's case where he's talking about the woman who was intoxicated and texting? That's what we've had. That's what we've had. Will it withstand scrutiny by the Court of Appeals? Gross deviation from the standard of care a normal person would employ. 77% of young drivers say they're texting. They're confident they can text or drive. A gross deviation of the standard of care a normal person would employ. That is a problem. That is a question that is yet to be answered. So, hypothetically, let's play with the case. Let's play with the excuse me. Let's play with a driver who's on a limited access highway, 2 lanes, 3 lanes, either direction. Driver behind him, throw in 1, 7 o'clock, hypothetically. 7 a.m. There's a driver behind who notices the SUV drift a little bit to the right and then correct quickly. You ever see that? Yeah. 7 o'clock and 1, Saturday morning. What would you think? What would you think? Hungover. Do you ever sit on juries? No. Hungover. What else? High. Tired. Tired. I think high. Tired. Right. Probably didn't get enough sleep the night before. 7 a.m. on a Saturday. What else would you think? Not paying attention because maybe on the phone. Shaving. Shaving wouldn't it be great? You get evidence of shaving now, right? I gotta tell you, in the wreck, shaving would be the easiest to prove. Just the Barbasol can, right? So you start thinking, firstly, as the backup, as the driver behind, you're gonna step back, aren't you? Are you gonna lean back? Are you gonna also focus? Are you gonna start looking at him, watching him, right? Thinking about it. And so that's what this driver does. When they notice the SUV drift off and continue drifting off, and they're coming up to a bridge, so there's an abutment, and the witness says specifically, I'm watching him, he's going to hit the abutment. There's no way. He's going to drive right off the road into the abutment. There's a small braking mark on the highway right before the dirt side of the highway. So he does start to brake. He then whips the wheel to the left and puts his SUV in a yaw that goes around like this, hits the median, flips upside down, and lands on a car going the other way. At perfect timing, which is always one of the most troubling things for us, I think, when we watch some of these instances, is how unfortunate things are. Somehow he manages to get it over the median between the bridge, which he just went through backwards and sideways, and right before a stanchion. Either the bridge or the stanchion might have killed him. That's life. But no, he made it through and lands on this car and takes the life of 2 people in the car going the other way. So we start to investigate and we start to look. The driver has an 06 alcohol about an hour after the crash. What does that tell you? Didn't you say over there, hungover? Right? Hungover? We start to be able to look at the phone and see that it was on the phone the night before and then it goes dead. Statements start to come out that, yeah, I'm in Queens with, well, my girlfriend's waiting for me up there, but I'm in Queens with the different girl. Always a problem. Always a problem. It's not going to lead to anything. Right? I tell my children all the time, bad things happen after midnight. Right? Well, having a girlfriend and another girlfriend in another county, that's always a bad thing. I don't bother telling my boys that, but someday I guess I will. But I think of it. It's trouble. Trouble is ruin. The phone, at the time of the crash, he's of course climbing out. He's a little injured, not much, from this catastrophic crash. And all he keeps saying is, where's my phone? I need my phone. Everybody will walk up, because Good Samaritans walk up, don't they? There's a horrific wreck on the highway, and everybody stops and gets out. You okay? You doing all right? I need my phone. I need my phone. That's all he's saying. I need my phone. Somebody finds the phone and gives it to him. When the cops get caught up with him, check out the blood, do that stuff, they also get the phone. What Tony was talking about is search warrants for phone. That's where we're going. Okay? That's where we are already, pretty much in New York. You can grab the phone because you got to safeguard it. And nowadays, they can call it from outside and erase it. You can call it and fill it with messages and back them down so they start erasing things. So what we tell them to do is put it in what I think they call it a Faraday bag. So right from the start you get it, it can't receive messages from outside. Right? But he's already had it. So when we look at the phone, everything's deleted. People are starting to delete. Everything's deleted. We get a search warrant for phone records on every crash we look at now. That's beyond standard operating procedure. That's just, when they come and talk to me, this is what happened, pedestrian strike, I just said, get a phone. They got phones. Everybody's got a phone. We all have phones. You guys don't have very many friends, though. So I realize that. I thought this was going to be ringing off the hook, and I'd be able to say, oh, isn't this distracting? I'm having no fun. So, what was I saying? So the thing is that You get a Faraday bag, you put the phone away, and then what you do is you automatically draw up, we do grand jury subpoenas, and we get the provider, the phone provider's records. We do it all because we want to know what this factor is. What is in this one? Well, you can also do a forensic on the phone sometimes. And in the phone, we get from the provider that there was a series of text messages at 6:15 in the morning. Never a response. We get a knowledge that there was an update by the provider at 7:06 to the phone, like some sort of update like thing. The crash is at 7:08. He says, the statement by the guy is an animal came out. We're okay on that, right? Because he does the juke, comes back, and then he's juking off again. There's not two animals, right? So I'm not that worried about animals. And it's classic texting while driving, right? That kind of loss of attention and control. What are the texts? Well, the texts are from the girl from the evening, and they're rather suggestive. And so, my theory is that these get sent to him at 6:15 when he's leaving the girl, right? Like he walks out of the place and he's heading back to the other girl, and she's texting, so I'll just say suggestive things. But in my mind, those are things that a guy would usually answer, okay? You don't leave those kind of things hanging around in the world. And the other part of it is, he's going where? He's going back to the other girlfriend. So you also don't leave those things hanging around the world, I'm guessing. I don't have personal experience with that. I've been married for a long time happily, all right? So I'm thinking he'd respond to that, but there's no send back. So, what's my theory? 7:06, the phone makes a sound because they get updated. He picks it up and sees these texts for the first time. Why didn't he see them when they came in? Because you're doing a million things. Maybe he's in the place getting a cup of coffee before he goes back. I don't know what he's doing, but he doesn't respond when they sent 45 minutes before. So the only reason I can think of that is because he didn't see them. And then he gets some sort of update, and now at 7:08, he's trying to respond. Guess what the problems are? Well, the problems are multitude, because he deleted all of them. I find out about him through his phone records and a forensic of the phone. What else? If the phone's destroyed in a crash, I wouldn't have any of these texts if I didn't have the actual physical phone. They did all that stuff with the Malaysian airline, right? Did you see that stuff? Where they say that basically if they found the phones from the Malaysian airline 1,000 years later, that they could still pull the stuff off the phone. Well, I'm guessing that's pretty true. And we got the stuff off of this phone. But can I say, there's also service provided. They're creating destruction protocols that are very rapid, which you're seeing, where they destroy their records quickly. Why? I don't know why. Every other business in the world keeps almost everything forever. Why? Can I prove that he was doing that? Now this is the choir. We're in the choir here. What do you think? Can I prove? Not me. This is a hypothetical case. I mentioned that. So would a prosecutor be able to prove that he was looking at his phone? That is the difficulty with what we're talking about. And there's even more. The white. This was just on the news, where the phone manufacturers are basically creating an anti-theft program that when your phone's stolen, you can call it, poof, everything's gone. Everything's gone. So I guess, which problem do we want to fix? Stolen phones or people killing people while they're texting? And so the question would be, which is it? Well, can they both be fixed? Can it be wiped, but still recoverable? Can law enforcement still get it? I've had a couple of situations now where phones are deleted. As soon as we can get to them, and we try to get to them as fast as possible, everything on the phone is deleted. And we can rebuild that sometimes. But if you have this type of thing, from what I've read about it, it shuts it all down. And that's going to make it less. What do you have if you don't have if you don't have criminally negligent homicide. Well, we created a law a couple of years ago. I'm the TSRP, but I'm also the chair of the State DA's Association's legislative committee on this stuff. And so they call me and ask me questions about this, and so I try to help. And one of the things they created was failure to exercise due care. It's for pedestrians. It's for bicyclists. It doesn't apply in a car crash, but it's a good law. But it's only a violation. It's a vehicle and traffic law violation. When it was being presented, the discussion was to make it a felony. I don't know where we get to a felony, but it'd be nice. How about a misdemeanor? So this year, what they've done, part of Vision Zero, is they're proposing to Albany, take this failure to exercise due care and make it a felony. Make it a misdemeanor at least. Steps along the way. Somebody said to me 5 points. 5 points is better than 2 points. And maybe in 2 years or 5 years, maybe that's more. All steps along the way. It's a reflection of society understanding and appreciating the danger and the carnage that occurs. So with this, that would help for the pedestrians, and I can't tell you how many New York City pedestrians get killed in crosswalks by cars making left-hand turns. And I don't always know they're on the cell phone, although every time we look. Every time we look. Failure to yield. Reckless driving. Does that fall into it? What? Are you ringing? Hey, you want to talk to me? It's okay, I'm ringing. Boy, that's distracting. You can't, right? You can't help it. You got to touch it. When it rings, you got to do it. We're hardwired to it. Reckless endangerment? Well, reckless driving is different. Reckless driving, the definition of reckless and reckless driving is a different legal definition than like reckless manslaughter. It's lower, but reckless endangerment is the same as reckless manslaughter. And if we don't even know if we have criminal negligence, how would we ever be arguing reckless manslaughter? How would we be arguing reckless endangerment? One last hope. DMV does fatality hearings up in Albany whenever there's a crash and someone loses their life. And they look at what happened, they look at the driving record, and they sometimes take away driver's licenses. And I say thank God for that. What are we doing about it? Well, I teach a lot. You're like teaching. You are a rock star, by the way. So you are teaching a lot of high school students. We, through the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee, the New York State Prosecutors Training Institute, and I'm involved in that. We get out to 3,000 or 4,000 law enforcement professionals a year. That's one of the highest in the country. There's TSRPs in the whole country. Almost every state has one, and they're doing the same type of thing. And typically we are on the cutting edge. We pay attention. We listen. We've done it before. We're hearing it. And so what we're doing is trying to make that message go to a broader audience. Trying to start Tonys. Trying to get a Tony Mendez for a local place. If you have a guy like this in your local area, you're gonna catch things, and that's what we need. I teach prosecutors a lot, and I teach them all about cases in which people lose their lives in cars, people get badly injured in cars, and try to tell them how to try the case and try to tell them the science of the collision reconstruction. And what do we also do? We talk about phones now. We talk about phones all the time. What else do? We deal with the media. This one was a depraved indifference conviction from Long Island. A little girl in a limousine lost her life, and the driver lost his life when a drunk driver coming the other way crashed into them. And the drunk driver was convicted of depraved indifference murder, which is the same as intentional murder. Well, over the past 9 years, the Court of Appeals has turned back depraved indifference convictions. When they saw this case, they decided not to turn it back. And they decided that you can have a depraved indifference murder conviction in that instance. So what does that mean? We have yet to see. We have yet to see. At least they're looking at vehicular crimes a little bit differently, a little bit better. I think it's all of us making the best possible case from the road, prosecutors making the best possible case from court, and then hopefully we're another facet of changing this behavior. Okay? Okay?
Thank you very much.